Hi guys, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to an art journal tutorial, another in the napkins series. But this time we're not using one napkin, we are using two napkins in two different ways. So here's the napkin that is going to form the background. Now this may look familiar because I use that napkin in the background of this art journal page, which turned into, with stenciling and everything, this napkin and took a very darker turn. But I really liked this stage of that process, so I decided to try this napkin again, and that's going to start off this page. So one of the uses of napkins is to use it as the base layer of color, or an Insta background, if you will, just like you would collage paper or anything else. This napkin has these flowers in them. They're not really something that we can cut out as focal points, although that being said, I'm sure you could. But I love the colors, the pinks, the peaches, the yellow, the green. They're slightly neon. That's can be found in this napkin. So I wanted to use this in the background. So I'm putting a layer of fluid matte medium on here. Now I got this napkin in Happy Mail. So I don't even know where you could source it out, but you could look through your napkins and find something with colors that you love and use that as the base. But I got this napkin in Happy Mail from my friend Paula. So thank you, Paula, again. So I'm gluing it down. I'm putting matte medium underneath and matte medium on top. Set it aside, let it dry, and now I'm just cutting off the excess. Interestingly enough, this one is also, that background was created by leftover parts of a napkin in a similar way. So I'll put a link to that video. Okay, so all the leftover pieces, they can go in a pile and I can use those. I'm just checking that the edges are all glued down properly. So here is the napkin background. Now, don't fall in love with it right now. I want to lighten this up, push the actual pattern back, and I decided I'm just going to brayer on white gesso. It's just knocking back the pattern, muting it that ever little bit, and getting it ready for what I'm going to do next. And I'll admit right here, there are a few false starts till I figured out what will work. So I'm using this flower tiles stencil. It's from Balzer Designs with the Crafters Workshop. This is the 12-inch one. And I loved the pattern of this. Now, I wasn't sure what color to use, but I like the colors that were in the napkin. So I'm using the quinacridone magenta, and then I come back and I'm adding a little bit of orange, and that's matching the hues that are in the napkin. So I'm taking my direction really from the napkin. And there are quite wide open spaces in this napkin, so we are going to get that pattern. Now you'll notice with this stencil, instead of putting it square, I've turned it. Don't be afraid to change the orientation of your stencils to get a slightly different look, or a look that fits better to what you're doing. Now at this time, I did not know what I was going to do in the way of focal images. Now we know I'm going to be using another napkin as a focal image, but at this stage I didn't know. So don't feel that you need to have all the answers. You figure it out as you go. So I'm using the quinacridone magenta and light magenta I'm applying it with a makeup sponge little by little. This is sped up about 1.5. It is a slow process. If you try to rush that process, that's when you're more likely to get seepage. You don't want a wet, globby amount of paint on your makeup sponge. So the reveal, and I am loving it. I've got those colors in the background, and that pink is really showing through. I'm seeing the pattern, and it's all working together. But remember, this is still a background. This flower tile stencil is not the focal image. Here I'm adding some orange to it to get more of that peachy coral color to play with the background. And I'm not putting it all over, I'm putting it here and there. And I love it. Look at this background. So here is the background I just created, and here's the one that I did last time. The addition of the Prussian blue really made it a different pattern. So I needed to edge it. My page didn't seem to stop, so I'm edging it with some of that magenta paint just to figure out. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I'm looking around my room. This kind of looks like wallpaper. You could flip through. This would make a lovely wallpaper in a girl's bedroom. You got that little bit of green in there, and the yellow and orange colors. I just loved how that turned out. So I spent some time going through some of my focal images, pulled out all the napkins, and I found this napkin, and I believe it's called the Entourage. It's a Vicki Sawyer napkin, and I got this from ninniesnapkins.com. I am collaborating with her, and there is a coupon code in the description box if you are interested. She's got a wide variety of napkins, and you can buy just 2 of them instead of a whole pack, which is great. She also carries TCW stencils. Great prices, great shipping costs. So check that out. You can also get my sentiment packs at Ninnies. So now I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to arrange this focal image? I had to take it off the napkin because I need to play with it. I need to move it around. Didn't want them all together, although joke's on me, I pretty much end up with them together after I play. You'll be seeing a lot of different possibilities, but you can cut them apart. And that's the joy of using the napkins. You can make it fit whatever size your page is. This is about a 5x7, a little larger than a 5x7. And it's from my old recipe binder that I've repurposed as an art journal. I'm thinking I could do it like that. Didn't like that the birds were looking the same way, so I'm looking at the napkin, and I notice that, which is often the case, you get the focal images looking both ways, and then so you can use that to your advantage. And I mean, if you look at this napkin, I've got 4 copies of the focal image. So if something goes wrong, I have another one, or I can mix and match and make it my own. Now, about these napkins, there are a whole series of these Vicki Sawyer bird napkins. They're all wearing these funky kind of hats. There's some really, really cute ones. Again, go check it out at Ninnie's Napkins. Kind of like it going this way. And now I'm just going to remove some more of the excess paper. And I'm using a liner brush with a little bit of water to water cut it. This gives a rough edge, which I like, which I prefer over a cut edge. Although, to be honest, because my background is fairly dark and I was afraid that it was going to show through, I do end up gluing this down onto copy paper. But you'll see that in a minute. So I highly recommend you get out that liner brush, cut apart the focal images out from the napkin so you can rearrange them on your page and play with the composition. Also, you're using the napkin as the jump off point for your composition. But these little things that you tweak and change and add, that's what makes it yours. I find it very easy to use the water cutting technique here. So I prefer to get as much of that napkin layer off as possible. Really liking this orientation. And I'm not sure why I chose not to do that, but I do change it up in the end. But again, there are lots of possibilities. So pick one that you like. It can go this way, it can go that way. Take pictures. There is no right or wrong. So because I'm going to glue that down and I could see the background through it, I decided to glue these napkins onto just plain copy paper. And I'm using my fluid matte medium to do that. And I'm just trying to be gentle and just gluing it down. This brightens up the colors and it's also going to give an opaque background to it. So you're not going to see whatever stenciled background. Now, if you knew ahead of time that, oh, I'm going to use this focal image and I'm going to put this in the corner, if I had started with that, I would not have stenciled on the entire background. I would have left the one area plain and then I could have just glued the napkin right onto the background. Make sense? But with so many things, there's lots of ways of getting to the same point or achieving the same effect. Pick the one that works best for you, is going to give you the most success. If cutting with scissors works best for you, cut with scissors. If using, so after this thoroughly dries, I'm cutting it. And I'm just, I have that background sitting there. I absolutely love it. It just was a perfect match. And I'm tickled because it really was a bit of a struggle. I had tried, I pulled out a lot of different stencils and a lot of different possible color combos to put on there, modeling paste. But in the end, you just persevere, try and try again. And, and that's the other great thing about napkins. If you have a pack, or even if you buy the two, you have enough to do some experimenting. And if it doesn't go right, you can try again. And I think that's the great thing. So I'm just cutting that out, but I'm not going to bore you with me cutting that out. I'm going to use gel medium to glue this down. The fluid medium would work, but it might take a little bit longer. And I'm using the gel medium now because it's thicker and my paper, because I've put the napkin on top of the copy paper, and now I'm putting it on a textured background, it just gives it that, it's a little better adhesive for this type of situation. Now you can see, I'm going to talk about why I chose this napkin for the focal point. And it's basically because the colors work together. We've kind of got that green, yellow, pink with these birds that matches the background. Right now it looks a little foggy. The gel medium is a little white when you put it on, but it does dry clear. And this is from the Crafter's Workshop. And the links to this and everything will be in this description box below. Then I went and I looked through my sentiment stash, my binder, and picked the sentiment from the BU sentiment pack, and it says, "Why fit in when you were born to stand out?" And I thought that was just perfect for these birds. This would make a lovely wall hanging in a room as well. And I have some 6x6 mixed media tiles, and I think that would make a perfect one. So I can see this napkin finding another use and life. Now I'm using the floating acrylic technique and I'm shading around these birds where they are meeting the page, and even to adding some more shading on them just to make them stand out a little bit more. You can just see how that just brought that wing out. This is a bit of a slow process, but it's one well worth the time. Now remember, I put a good coat of gel medium on top of that, and that has made the napkin, the birds, non-porous. So we will take shading. If you're doing it onto a raw napkin, the napkin will absorb that color and you may not like the effect that you get. So put a coat of gel medium on it or clear gesso before you add any of this, and you'll find it works better. There, it just brought out that bird all the more. Remember, my background here is really busy. There's a lot going on, and I want the birds to stand out. They are the focal image. And I'm just adding where I want it to be. The sentiment I didn't put straight. A lot of times my sentiments are perfectly level and lined up. I wanted to kind of go with the feel of the page, the unexpected, the wildness, so to speak. If you don't follow me on Instagram, go to Instagram and follow me at Creative Katie. You can also join my Facebook group, Art, Journaling, and Mixed Media Creations. Do you have a stencil that you wish you could figure out how to use? If it's a Crafter's Workshop stencil, put it in below, and if I have it, I can either direct you to a video where I've used that stencil to give you some ideas, or maybe create something new with that stencil. But that's only for the Crafter's Workshop stencils. That's what I have a lot of since I'm a brand ambassador with them. Doing the shading around the edges. I wasn't sure I was going to have too much black on the page, so I didn't edge it with black when I first edged it. And I'm going to go around the sentiment. If I was using the same Vicki Sawyer napkin and I had a 9 by 12 page or a bigger page, I might use more of the birds. And that's the great part of the napkins, because you typically are going to have multiple images, either from the same napkin or from multiple napkins that you have. If you've bought a whole package of them, or you've traded, or even if you buy them, because there's many places you can buy a limited amount. Loving the look of this, giving it a little bit of black splatters. Thank you so much for joining me today. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already a subscriber. Click on the bell and check that you are going to be notified of upcoming videos. That way you won't miss any. If you're not getting those notifications, try this trick. Unsubscribe and resubscribe. And there are the napkins that I've used. And some close-ups, again, this lovely background. And some of the page. Thanks again for joining me. Now let's get creative.